Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, I want to talk about the best Pokemon with which to use Twin Energy. You see, Twin Energy is largely, not entirely, but largely a reprint of Double Colorless Energy. The only exception is that it does not provide two colorless energy when attached to a Pokemon GX or a Pokemon V. At that point, it provides just one colorless energy. Now, what I want to do is make a list of some of the best Pokemon to use with it. This is not intended to be an exhaustive list. I'm going to leave Pokemon out that you think I should put on here, and I'm probably going to realize a couple of others after the fact. I've had a good look round, I've got a nice little list, but I make no promises it is exhaustive. I am more than willing to make a sequel video, so if there's some you think I've missed, whack them in the comment section. If we need to do another one of these, we totally can. One quick appendix before we get going. I'm not talking EXs. So Seismitoad is great with Twin Energy. Malamar I really like with Twin Energy with something like Porygon Z, because then you can use Twin Energy and Double Colorless Energy at the same time, and that kind of gets hilarious with the amount of energy you're putting on to flip. But I'm not worried about those Pokemon. I might do that as a follow-up video in the future, but we are talking standard format. So here's essentially what we're looking for. We are talking single prize Pokemon with either a 2 energy attack, a 2 energy attack with 1 fighting energy, so we can use Karate Belt to bring it down to a single colorless energy, a 2 energy attack with 1 lightning, so we can use Tapu Koko Prism Star to put the 3rd energy on there, a fire Pokemon with 2 fire, 2 colorless, so we can use Welder with a twin energy, or any 3 or 4 energy colorless Pokemon, so that we can go a little bit nuts in terms of just accelerating energy. Oh, I should add Psychic Pokemon because of Malamar might be ones to consider. So, in no particular order, let's reel off a seemingly random list. Blissey. The Blissey from Lost Thunder is so good. It's got the ability Happiness Supplement. Once during your turn, you may remove a special condition from your active Pokemon. Might not seem too relevant, but remember, everyone's playing Jirachi. This means you can play Jirachi, and instead of using a skateboard, you can use U-turn board, which is way better if you're not asleep. You've been warned. Powerful Slap does 80 damage for every heads you flip, and you flip 1 coin for each energy attached to this Pokemon. Now you can use Triple Acceleration Energy and any free colorless energy Pokemon you can, but you can also go something like Welder Twin Energy, and then there's 4 energy on there and you're flipping 4 coins. And Twin Energy might be 2 rather than 3, but it doesn't fall off at the end of your turn like Triple Acceleration does, so that's something to bear in mind. A particular favourite of mine is Terrakion. Now, I am a huge fan of Terrakion. Terrakion was absolutely central to the deck I used to grind into the World Championships in 2012, but I played it with everything from Empoleon to Terrakion EX. I played that card a lot, and that's always given me a soft spot for Terrakion. The one from Unified Minds, though, now has potential. 1 fighting, 2 colorless. If all of your bench Pokemon have at least 1 damage counter on them, you do 200 damage. Now you really need to be behind on prizes here, but we can now go Karate Belt, Twin Energy, and we pay this in a single turn. This can work, especially against decks playing stuff like Roxy. But it doesn't need to be anything that simple. You can just use a Pokemon that damages your bench. There's plenty of them out there. It really is a fun idea, and I don't know if Terrakion's going to be good, but Terrakion's one that I'm a huge fan of. While we're talking weird Pokemon that have fighting energy in their attack cost, how about Karakost? Now, it does actually have a really nice ability that turns off Pokemon tools on your opponent. It's basically a one-sided Lysander Labs, which should not be slept on. Lysander Labs is a good card that's seen a lot of play. Again, it will turn off Jirachi's Escape Board. But now, 1 fighting, 2 colorless energy, 80 damage. plus 20 more for each energy in your opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost. If they've got a high retreat, you can do a huge amount of damage here. I mean, if you take something like, I don't know, let's say, random example, top of my head, no agenda, Reshiram and Charizard. Reshiram and Charizard's got a retreat cost of 3, which means you'll actually be doing 140 damage. But you'll be doubling it with weakness to do 280. Oh, look at that. It just happens to be the perfect amount of damage. Who'da thunk it? Now, another one here that I don't know how much I love this, but I do want to give a quick shout out to Armaldo. Now, Armaldo here, I mean, honestly, we really want to use Ancient Blast. And to be fair, I do love this with Twin Energy. 50 damage for each unidentified fossil in your discard pile with 20 base. Now, what you should be doing here is 220. Remember, if you use Pokemon Research Lab, you can put a Pokemon that evolves from unidentified fossil directly onto your bench. You can actually use 2, but your turn ends. But what you're essentially doing here is, and then you've got Ditto Prism Star as well, to be fair, and you can basically just circumvent unidentified fossil, so you never have to use it, so you're just doing 220 for a Twin Energy. It's awkward, don't get me wrong, it's very awkward, but I love it nonetheless, and it means you're not forced to use something like Welder, which would get even more awkward. Let's go to a completely different kind of Pokemon now. How about the Doublade from Team Up? You see, the Doublade from Team Up's got Tool Drop, which is to say you do 30 damage for each Pokemon tool attached to all Pokemon. That is yours and your opponent's. That's a lot of damage for 2 energy. Or a Twin Energy. Oh, look how that worked out, ladies and gentlemen. I like Doublade with Twin Energy. I'm still not convinced it's going to be quite good enough, but it is one that I absolutely think is worth a look. One card, now this is a card that I thought was going to be absolutely over-the-top brokenly good, and really hasn't been since. The Drifblim that came around in Ultra Prism. Although some of these, like this Drifblim, Twin Energy is going to be legal in May, and these are going to rotate out August or September, so we've got a window to play them, but it's a small window. 2 colorless energy, damage transport, move 4 damage counters from each of your Pokemon to your opponent's active Pokemon. Especially if your opponent's using some kind of spreading deck, this gets kind of hilarious kind of quickly. It's a lot of damage. And you're healing while you do a lot of damage. In theory, this could be 240, 6 Pokemon, 40 damage from each, but it's not likely to be that high. But it's going to be a bit of healing from each of your Pokemon and a bit of damage, so still something I'm a little bit excited about. And what I love here is that even though Drifblim could always have gone into a Malamar deck, you're talking stage 1. Well, that's kind of awkward, and it's not working brilliantly. But now, it's a lot less of an investment, and therefore a much better option. Now, one use that I really like for this is Weezing. Weezing, now we use Weezing as it is. If it's your active Pokemon, you put 1 damage counter on each of your opponent's basic Pokemon between turns. Well, that sounds good. But the attack does 40 to the active and 20 to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon with any damage on it. This can add up. And look, anytime we're using Twin Energy, we could always have gone Malamar. Or Welder. Or something like that. But it's not the same as just here is 1 energy card from my hand, boom, I'm off. It means you can play a supporter that isn't Welder. It means you're not relying on having stage 1s taking up bench space and evolving up into them. Believe me, it makes a huge difference. Now, one that I don't know how I feel about it, but it did come up when I was having a look around, Gallade. The Gallade that came around in Cosmic Eclipse. It is both Psychic and Fighting type, in your face Pikachu and Zekrom, but it means it's also a Psychic Pokemon that can use Diancie Prism Star, so it should fall slightly short of getting a 1-hit KO on Mewtwo and Mew, but now you're actually hitting exactly 280. Fingers crossed they don't have a Jirachi GX in play, otherwise they have no weakness, but let's just hope they don't, alright? Let's just hope they don't. Well, now Power Cyclone, 120 for a Twin Energy. And this is a stage 2. And when you've got a stage 2, you can't be mucking about with stage 1s that don't draw cards, or being forced into a supporter that only draws your free cards. You need something like Twin Energy. And before we get to my 2 favourite uses, I've got to give some love to Stunfisk. 2 colourless energy, 30 damage for each of your Pokemon that has any damage counters on it. Now, incidentally, this does have Raging Thunder, 1 colourless energy, 30 damage, and then 10 to one of your bench Pokemon. So this could be a nice little starter in a Terrakion deck, for instance. But then 2 colourless energy, 30 damage for each of your Pokemon with any damage counters on. Now, clearly here, the best option for this is Spiritomb, and essentially Spiritomb just lets you put damage on it. And then you can, well, have damage on all your Pokemon, and then you're hitting 180 damage. That's quite good. Also, don't sleep on Spiritomb itself. 10 damage plus 30 more for each damage counter on this Pokemon. That's kind of cool. So maybe here you can make Stunfisk Spiritomb, and it's even better. But now we can actually put Terrakion into the deck, because we've got a Karate Belt if you're behind on prizes. And now all of a sudden it fits in, and this is what Twin Energy does. Twin Energy, it's not just 2 energy, though it is 2 energy. It is, now I don't have to play Welder. Now I can use whatever supporter and whatever other Pokemon I like while going for it, just using this 1 energy. Now I can legitimately tech Terrakion into my deck, and it might work. But there are 2 uses which I do think are above and beyond the others. One is I think this could be a top tier deck now. And one is more of a, oh my goodness, I love it, I want this to be great. Now the oh my god, I love it, I want this to be great is Garchomp. And look, Garchomp, like Terrakion, is one of those Pokemon for whom I have a gigantic soft spot. One of my favourite decks that I ever played was, and it retired out a little while ago now, but it was a Garchomp from Breakpoint. I adored that deck. I bubbled top 32 in a large regional with this. I had the points, but I took 2 early losses, and that hurt my resistance massively. Can't win them all. I went from 1-2 to 6-2, but I bubbled cut. It's alright, I took early losses. That's on me. Point is, one of my favourite decks I ever played. Absolutely adored it. So I'm always looking for Garchomp. And I think the Garchomp, well, we've had 2 different flavours of it, but specifically the fighting one, I think this one could be good now. Because you see, we've actually got it in Dragon or Fighting, and either is just as good as the other. It makes no difference, except Fighting hits something for weakness, so maybe play that one. And you can use that Prism Star to do an extra 20 damage, so maybe it does make a difference. Maybe play the Fighting one. But 2 colourless energy or a Twin Energy Quick Dive. This attack does 50 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Not great, fine. But Royal Blades does 200 damage if you played Cynthia from your hand during this turn. And Cynthia's one of the best supporter cards we've got in the game right now. So it's not really that big a deal if you have to play it. But here's the thing. Now you use Quick Draw in the early game, and then when you're behind on prizes, boom, Karate Bout Royal Blades. And if it takes too long to go behind on prizes, then you just add a Fighting Energy to your Quick Dive, and then you're off and rolling. I can't tell you that Garchomp is now going to become a top tier deck just because of Twin Energy, but I can tell you that I want it to, and that I hope it does, and that I'm going to do everything in my power to try and make it so. But I think the best use for this is Lost March. You see, Lost March is a deck we've talked about a lot, and we don't need to go into a huge amount of detail. You've got Jumpluff that for 1 grass energy does 20 damage for each Pokemon other than Prism Star in your Lost Zone. We've got Skiploom, which is a stage 1 that Lost Zones itself and pre-evolutions, letting you search for Jumpluff. Basically, when you get a Skiploom, you get Jumpluff out, so Jumpluff is basically a stage 1, but with 2 Pokemon in the Lost Zone. And then you got Trumbeak that Lost Zones itself, and Lost Blender that lets you put Pokemon in the Lost, or cards in the Lost Zone, but you're going to go for Pokemon, etc. Cool. The problem is, you've got to Lost Zone Skiploom, which means you're limited to 4 Jumpluff for the game. And then you end up in this weird situation where you need a backup attacker, and we have 2. We've got the Natu from Lost Thunder that has Lost March for 2 colourless energy, and we've got either the Cottony or the Whimsicott from Cosmic Eclipse that both have Lost March for 2 colourless energy. To be honest with you, the Whimsicott, kind of superfluous. Cottony's got terrible HP, but it also does the same job with the same attack on a basic rather than a stage 1. But it was always super awkward to actually use them. You can't play Welder or Malamar in a Lost March deck. It doesn't work. But you totally can play Twin Energy. So now you've got Jumpluff, but when you can't get a Jumpluff out, or you've run out of Jumpluff, you now have a legitimate basic attacker with a legitimate single energy card that will pay the attack, and you're off and rolling. And I think Lost March is the big winner with Twin Energy. I like all the ones I've mentioned here, but I think Lost March is the big winner. Speaking of winners, I do need to give a shout out to Ethan Campista over on Verbank, who did make a thread pointing out some of these Pokemon. It was a very similar list to mine in some ways, different in other ways, but it was an awesome list, and it would be rude if I didn't give a quick bit of a shout out. I didn't make the video from the list, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't compare my list to his when I was planning the video. So shout out to Ethan, very helpful post. Thank you very much. For now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to know your favourites. I'd like to know which of these you love, which of these you're going to play with, and of course, if there's any you think I've missed, I'd be very excited to hear about them. Go nuts in the comment section, but please remember the rule. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WazzyPlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but are very awesome nonetheless. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.